Hello, I'm Greer McGearey, President of Seahorse Victoria, and my guest tonight is Jessica Ward, also a member of Seahorse and Seahorse's Librarian. Welcome, Jessica.
Thanks for having me, Greer. It's a pleasure to be here.
The interesting thing about social supports groups such as Seahorse is it's been around now for 45 years, and what I'd like to know is the impact it's had on you and your journey into exploring your identity.
Seahorse has had a significant impact upon me, it's fair to say. It's been a very significant source of social support for me for about 25 years, believe it or not. I had my 50th birthday this year, and I first went to Seahorse when I moved to Melbourne. I had to escape Queensland, as some TLGBTIQ Queenslanders might say, to get away from that stifling atmosphere. And I got involved with Seahorse pretty early on when I moved to Melbourne. And there's still Christine, and still one or two of those members is still around. And it's been really, and I've sort of come back to Seahorse over that. I haven't been a member for the full 25 years. I've come in and out as I've sort of needed to receive the benefits of Seahorse membership, but certainly that sort of support has been really welcome to me over the years.
Yeah, you mentioned that you came from Queensland, so when you started to start to deal openly with your identity, what was the background, family, other social support or lack of social support that you were aware of?
Being trans was becoming aware that I was trans was quite a journey for me. So I found I had to just get out of Queensland and away from people that I knew. I knew that being trans was bad and exploring my gender identity issues was not really welcome. So I had to leave the state to do that. It's a pretty funny thing because a lot of my Queensland family, friends and associates just don't understand that concept. Oh, Jessica, we don't see you. We don't really know much about you. Yeah, that's because I had to leave the state to become the person that I needed to be. That's not something that some people understand too well. When I was able to explore myself, I started to dress more freely, and I quickly developed a female identity, I suppose you could say, and then there were other issues as I sort of needed to work and earn a living as well. Turned out that I didn't get a chance to begin to transition till just a few years ago in my mid-40s. So it's been a long process.
What I was sort of trying to allude to a little bit, were you aware of any sort of support at all, or was just your sort of background feeling because of the family and other people that you knew, sort of general society attitude?
I wasn't when I first left Queensland, when I first escaped Queensland, but when I went back there for another go, I discovered Seahorse in Queensland. Seahorse is an organisation that's in every, or there's organisations like Seahorse in every state of Australia pretty much. So that they were very valuable to me in the late 90s and early 2000s.
When you came to Melbourne to, as you say, escape Queensland, what were you doing then? Sort of, did you have a career that you were sort of embarking upon, or were you focused on your identity?
Obviously, I've always needed to earn a living, and when I first came to Victoria in my mid-20s, I was still finalising degrees. I think I first escaped Queensland to go to New South Wales, and in the early 90s, and so I finished off my arts and law degrees, and we don't, and went back to Queensland, and then I had a go at making a success of myself as a lawyer for a few years, and found it to be filled with, it was a conservative atmosphere that was not welcoming of queer people, gay people, let alone trans people, too much. And so I had difficulties, and I had a boyfriend come in to visit me at one law firm, and took me out for lunch, and that was pretty much the end of my job at that law firm, believe it or not. And I at other and there's been various other stories where I've had nail polish on, like I was doing my nails at work, and gave myself a bad reputation with some trans things coming into play.
When you finally got to more permanently move to Melbourne, um, the did you find a massive change in attitude from the Queensland, New South Wales to here?
Definitely, it's certainly a more open and tolerant society. But I became a teacher, and in that, it's still like in terms of being like in terms of being gay at the school that I was at, there were 11 or so queer queer staff, and only one of them was out. Only one of them felt comfortable being out. Two of the assistant principals were gay, and neither of them felt comfortable. It definitely was not a good career move 6 years ago to be a gay teacher. Now, being trans is still a step up, or another layer of difficulty. And I understand there's a few trans teachers, but not much visibility there still. So when I go back to teach at this government school next year, I'm hoping I'll be well and truly supported. It's things have moved along and progressed quite a bit in the last few years, and so fingers crossed that will go very well.
That's good that you've been able to at least get some employment in that field. But you touch on changing from law to teaching. So, what was the catalyst, or what was the sort of drive within you to say, "I'd rather be a teacher than a lawyer"?
So some of those stories that I told you about, like another one was where I was a solicitor in Mildura, and towards the end of my 3 months or 4 months probationary period, I was working as a male, still trying to make that work. This was 10 years ago or more. My employer rang up a previous employer and said, "How's Jessie going?" Male version of my name. And the previous employer said, she was great. We really." And my current employer wasn't ready for the female pronoun and didn't know about my female life at that point. That was my last law job. So all my life, there's been an entanglement, um, an entanglement that's gotten me into trouble in terms of queer/trans issues. And yeah, I've basically had to. So next year is going to be very significant for me when I start work as a woman, the way I probably would have liked to a long time ago.
Oh, that's sort of great. The obviously the challenges of being outed, as it were, by somebody using the female pronoun would have been a bit of a shock to the employer, but hopefully it wasn't too detrimental in a social sense. But so you obviously came back to Melbourne and established, employment through your own endeavours. So that sort of leads on to a little bit of with Seahorse and the talents that you're brought to the club of taking on the job of librarian again and trying to rejuvenate the Seahorse Library, and it's led to the current project. So would you like to tell us a little bit about the project that you initiated last year?
I was a little bit flabbergasted when I returned to Seahorse with a sort of an ambition to give back to the community and to promote writing and the benefits of creative writing, autobiographical writing. The Seahorse Library had always been such a big part of the club. One of the benefits of it is certainly the services that it provides. Unlike some other very great trans groups, that's one thing that sets Seahorse apart. So I immediately started to get the library back together, and I also furthered this project with a number of willing participants. Some people who reflected on their own personal need for creative writing and decided to give it a miss. We've had quite a few contributors, mainly, as you know, Greer, yourself, and I certainly helped out a bit. But you finished, Susan Lardner started in terms of a history of Seahorse for the first 20 years or so. And then you did a really good job, in my opinion, of writing the history for the 25 years. So I think that was a core aspect of this Seahorse Retrospective magazine that we've put together, just recording that history and making sure it's not lost. And all very well designed by my partner, who's sort of quite professional in that area with good editing skills. And we've also been able to have a significant creative component of that. I think there's at least 5 or 6 people that have contributed short stories and autobiographical pieces and poetry and things of that nature. So it's been really good. The benefits of creative writing can't be overstated, I think, in terms of, quite a few different reasons. Giving you a chance to get things off your chest, like sort of cathartic benefits and dealing with issues. And then once you deal with those issues, the self-esteem and the strength that comes from getting more in control of your life. And it certainly leads to positivity. I think it's a great road to positivity.
One of the or several sessions that you did over last year and earlier, before all the lockdown occurred, was running little courses and workshops, as it were, at Seahorse meetings about writing and the benefits it could do it. And it was pleasing to see quite a number of individuals sort of contribute to the retrospective. And I must thank your partner Campbell for the excellent job that he has done. And it's sort of going to the printers at the moment, so hopefully when lockdown finishes that we can have a nice big launch for it, but that's in the lap of the gods at the moment. But just going back a little bit with just your journey through using Seahorse and social benefits, were you also seeking professional help at the same time?
I have done. I think every transgender person who's transitioning needs to see a psychiatrist as part of the deal to get hormones. And, it's a pretty significant issue, changing gender, so you want to receive appropriate emotional support. I actually had some quite negative experiences with my Queensland family. I still am having, have had and am having those issues. And I've gone to see a psychiatrist a couple of times specifically for that, to help me to deal with those issues. Family, I probably don't want to go into all of that now, but there's a lot of misunderstanding. Although there's been really great benefits and really great advancement of society in terms of accepting transgender, in terms of understanding what transgender is, and hence able to accept transgender people in their lives as family members and co-workers and friends, there's still a fair way to go in terms of making those relationships more successful.
Your story is very similar to many others, and even to a point with mine, but I'm really rather fortunate that my family, there's been no really big dramas. There were a few minor hiccups in the earlier days, but by and large, they just accept me for however I appear in the household at the time. But I found that social support is really important, but doing things outside social support, I've probably bored others silly with my Toastmaster tales, but it's something that allowed me to do it. So what sort of outside activities have you been involved or done to sort of just have a life?
It's funny you should mention that, Greer, because trivia is a great love of mine, playing and organising trivia competitions. And you're actually a member of our trivia team in this passion and venture of mine that I've started, mainly probably because of COVID and the social restrictions there. I've started this Zoom trivia competition, which has been proving quite successful. We've got about eight teams playing in it. We've actually got many of the best trivia players in Australia playing in it, which is good and bad. Keeps us on our toes and makes us work harder, sort of thing. And it's been really great for me. It's been really tremendous for me. I actually had some suicidal thoughts and some quite negative, quite at a low end of the mental health spectrum there for a bit last year because of family issues and a lack of understanding and a lack of appropriate support there. So having something to throw yourself into, having a project to or an area of interest to throw yourself into is a really beneficial thing for one's mental health. And just the acceptance too that I've found in that community has been really marvellous. It really fills me with much hope for we trans folk that society's ready for us, and I've found it's all been really great.
That's what I find is the importance of doing things outside of the direct social support, such as Seahorse or even professional help, is we're wanting to develop a life and mixing with a broad range of people from all sorts of backgrounds and socio-economic backgrounds as well as ethnic backgrounds is an extremely important activity just for your own self-esteem. That so the key element of trivia. What is the nuts and bolts of what makes trivia intriguing to you?
I've just always liked it, I suppose. In a strange way, it was sort of like something that you always knew you liked. For me, like I knew I was going to make a link to being trans there. I always knew that I was different in that way, and I always knew that I liked trivia. I like collecting facts, and I have a sticky memory, as what's his name, the Beast says on the English Chase. That's one of his favourite phrases. I remember when I was 14, when the blue version of Trivial Pursuit came out, I wrote to Hasbro and the makers of the game in Canada and said, please give me a job as a trivia question writer. Here's 6 of my best questions. And I was really disappointed when I didn't get a positive response, didn't get any response from them. So I've always, loved trivia.
Do you find that that sort of plays into what we mentioned just a moment ago about creative writing? Sort of, you find that the two overlap?
Maybe. I'm planning on making them overlap. I'm got an idea for some sort of creative project or novel involving a trivia competition. I'm not sure if that'll ever get off the ground. Look, I'm not. I think they're probably fairly distinct, but there could be and there can be overlap. There's certainly a lot of overlap for me because they're my 2 driving forces in life, I would say.
Sort of been a previous conversation about once lockdown finishes and our life on Zoom is we're coming to an end. Do you have sort of plans to expand what you've been doing?
Maybe. I think that, the world's changing so much, isn't it? The US president's got the cholera, we've just found out in the last day and a half, and the news from America has never been more dynamic and been updated in such significant ways for the last 36 hours. The world's not going to be the same. So Zoom will hopefully, and other platforms will be here to stay. There's lots of people expressing an interest to continue working from home. The benefits for the planet and environmental issues can only be much more strongly and positively dealt with as a result. Overcoming geographical constraints for socialisation with platforms like Zoom is immense. I wouldn't be surprised if this trivia competition I've started with all these great trivia people from all around Australia, and we've got a team in New Zealand playing. It might well keep going long after we've got a vaccine, just because it's so jolly interesting and you don't get a chance to play with people from all over like that usually. So in a strange way, COVID's taught us a few good things, even though it's been a terribly bad thing. There might be some good that comes out of it.
One of the things, you're talking about the trivia online, and I do my Toastmasters because it's been competition time at the moment. We're having people from all over the world log into all our meetings. It's become a big trend for Toastmasters around the world to say, oh, I can now look at a meeting in Australia, and recently we've had a young lady join our club from New Guinea, and people from Canada and Japan and India. It's just bringing them all in, and there's no question about oh, you're this or you're that. For some reason or other, I think I sort of stand out a little bit, but just in the self-deprecating sense. But it's been a wonderful experience doing something like that. When we come out of this lockdown, how do you think we should be promoting the Seahorse Retrospective? What sort of things do you think we need to let the broader public know about Seahorse?
In terms of promoting trans issues, and in terms of improving the positive outcomes for trans people that we've been experiencing in the COVID, as you and I and others have been experiencing with our social interactions through Zoom with people from all over, we're probably both, and lots of other trans people are seeing how wonderfully accepting people tend to be when you're your authentic self. The old cliche that it's the good person that you are that makes a difference, and not what sort of clothes you wear or what pronouns you have. And that needs to continue. That'll continue to be important pre-COVID or post-COVID. From our perspective at the Seahorse Club, with the Retrospective magazine that we're publishing and our other endeavours there, will continue to give us voice and give us opportunities for creative and cathartic outlets. And as I said before, just continue to pave that road to positivity. And, social support will always be needed in our community, possibly more than some others. We are still, well, certainly for the foreseeable future, there's still quite a few slings and arrows becoming less and less arrows in the quiver from the conservative politicised forces in our society that are seeing us as less of an easy target now. But certainly I think the projects that we've been working on pre and into COVID will continue, and they're much needed.
That's been, I think, the long-term benefit of Seahorse. It's had no hidden agendas over definitely all the time that I've been involved, and looking back at the history, for all its ups and downs, it's maintained a sense of we're here just to provide that opportunity for individuals to start exploring their identity in a safe environment. And I think that's particularly in the time that I've been involved, been a key element to the social support. And hopefully we can continue, but there is one day, maybe the long-term hope in another 50 years, that there's no need for a group like Seahorse or other direct social support, because we are accepted for who we are. Just you are you.
I hope that that's the case. It still seems like a little way off yet, but certainly we're heading in that direction. I think clubs like Seahorse and Alphabet Soup and the other trans support clubs in Melbourne, and clubs like them around Australia and the world, are still very important, and they certainly do help to bolster one's one's self-esteem, and help one to develop skills and an attitude that is beneficial.
Thank you very much, Jessica, for sharing this time with us. A little bit of the personal story, the career, and the passion for your writing and trivia, how it's helped you personally, and the challenges that come ahead. So thank you very much for participating in our conversation tonight.
Thanks, Greer.
I'm Greer McGearey. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.